Welcome to the Jeremy and Andy Talk Movies podcast, where today we are going to be discussing the new war movie, Warfare.
Yes, we are, Jeremy.
Yes, I am Jeremy. I've been doing so good. I've been on such a good streak of that.
Listen, it's almost like a bit at this point.
Andy.
Yes, and I am Andy.
Boy. I'd say let's restart, but you know what?
No, we want people to see the
charm.
real,
We're genuinely
the real authentic charm. Some people may call it buffoonery. We call it charm.
We got to keep it light around here.
That's right, because it's about to get heavy.
Because, as we talk about this new movie, Warfare, which is aptly named.
Yeah.
If you're like, hey, what is this movie Warfare about? It's about warfare.
Yeah.
And
Only about
strictly
warfare.
about warfare, yes. So this movie has an interesting conceit behind it.
Yeah.
It is, so I guess we can back up a little bit. Alex Garland last year released the movie Civil War.
Yeah.
And on Civil War, he had a technical advisor.
Like a
Who was
battle.
who is a guy who's an actual veteran who was helping like consult with the way that you would choreograph these scenes.
Yeah.
And got to know him a little bit. And as they formed this relationship, they decided to tell a story that this guy was a part of, this certain battle in Iraq when he was over there. And so they tell it not just by telling his perspective, but what they did is they got together all the troops or all the people in his little unit.
In his unit, yeah.
And they got all their stories, and they made sure they did it very journalistically and with journalistic integrity. Got all the perspectives and got it as close to accurate as possible. Like they would want to confirm everybody's memories, but somebody else's memories just to make sure they got it right. Because they said what they wanted was, if there were cameras just all throughout this location, this is what you would have seen when it happened.
Yeah.
And so that's the conceit of this movie, is that they just recreate this actual event that happened, but they do put the disclaimer. It's not even so much a disclaimer, but they put at the beginning, this is based entirely on memories.
Yeah.
But the filmmakers put that because as much as memories are as true as we can get to the real thing, they're there's still the possibility of
we maybe remember, and it was traumatic. And
you're in a firefight, and there's going to be little discrepancies.
So you don't have time to focus on details necessarily. Yeah.
Exactly. It takes place. I read it takes place essentially in real time. Like once you get into the event, so you get one establishing scene of this unit watching a video.
It's 2 minutes at the maybe probably less.
Yeah, I mean, a minute 30 maybe. I don't know.
And then it's down to business.
It's them just watching this video, just kind of just showing that there's a sort of camaraderie with these guys. That's all it's meant to establish is, hey, these guys are all in a unit that gather around a computer to watch this thing and just be silly together.
And it's perfect. Yeah.
And then they're on the mission.
Yeah.
It doesn't give you a lot of information about the mission necessarily.
Nope. None, actually, really.
It literally just tells you that I think there's some SEAL snipers that are being covered by Marine troops or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's it. And you can't even tell who's who because they all dress alike.
Yeah.
And I read in the trivia that that's actually a pretty normal thing, that the SEAL members would kind of dress to blend in, not only wear the same camo that blends you into the environment, but blends you in with the other ones so that it isn't obviously the enemy. Hey, you're the SEAL target.
Right.
But yeah, this movie is as authentic feeling of a movie as you'll ever see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because of its detail and its technical emphasis on, we're just trying to recreate a real thing. Because of that, there's no soundtrack.
Yeah.
There's the song or the video they're watching in the beginning. There's a closing credit song, and that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
So this movie it's very much takes you and just puts you in a place and has you exist there. All right. So that's the general, just an idea. I mean, I guess I could say just beyond that is this unit takes over a house across the street from a target that they're supervising or surveilling.
Yeah.
And then they become under attack, and it becomes about getting out of this place.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the premise, really.
Yeah.
So Andy, what did you think of Warfare?
So a year ago, Civil War came out, a year ago in April, and I sat here and I said, this is my favorite movie of the year so far, and I'm going to repeat the same thing with Warfare. This is my favorite movie of the year so far.
Okay.
This is not a movie for everyone. I think it's almost like our disclaimer. Like, if you do not like tense, realistic violence, do not go watch this movie, because that is what this movie is. But this is an incredible experience. I mean, it's always, you always almost feel weird to talk about like something that is so closely based off of the memories of this guy. And, clearly this was a major deal for this guy's life. And it shows the actual, one of the actual guys who, is in the movie. It shows him at the end of the movie, and he's missing a leg. And so I don't want to sit here and be like so entertaining or anything like that. But I mean, just as far as an experience of, like you said, putting you in a place, in a situation. I've rarely had an experience like this where you're so just placed into a situation and an environment, and you kind of just watch it unfold. I mean, this is just an incredible experience to have.
Yeah, I will agree with what you're saying. It was an incredible experience.
Yeah.
I walked out like very impressed.
Yeah.
It is hard to categorize as a movie though.
Yeah,
because
it's almost like you're watching a documentary.
It is, yes. So you're sitting there going like, yeah, I don't know how to feel. It's an experience movie, like you said. It's an emotional movie. It's not exactly the same, but it kind of reminds me a little bit that way of Zone of Interest, where Zone of Interest is like, it's not meant to entertain you, but it's meant to give you this like feeling of uneasiness and uncertainty, and like, just have you feel a certain way. And this one was similar. You're supposed to walk out and feel a certain way. So, I mean, I'm walking out going like, I have no idea what the chances of this movie are like at like the Oscars, for example. And I'm like, okay, I know it won't get acting nominations. It's not because the actors aren't good.
It's not about that.
It's not about that. It's not the type of movie that does.
Yeah.
I would be very surprised if it didn't get a lot of technical nominations, because the sound and everything with this is amazing.
You would think.
But you don't know. But I'm just like, could this get a Best Picture? And I'm like, I don't know, because it's so not a typical movie that I don't know if it would. I do think, I'm kind of with you. I kind of expect that at the end of the year, I would have it among my list of best movies of the year.
Yeah. If this isn't in my top 5 at the end of the year, that means we've had an incredible 2025.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just really hard to think. Like,
it is.
I don't know what people are going to make of it.
And this is such a different, like me saying this is my favorite movie of the year so far is so different than if I was saying, Avengers Endgame is my favorite movie of the year so far. Because I was, this is not at all about entertainment. This is about, I don't know. For me, I guess it comes from just the admiration for the craft that went into this movie. And I guess too, just, even though it's not an acting showcase at all, for someone like Joseph Quinn, let's say, who is really on the rise, to be willing to take this part, and I don't want to say it's like a small part, because it's not, but this is not, this is not a hero type of role for him, or like, it's not like, oh man, my career's on the rise. Now, if I just play this, be a war veteran, that clearly wasn't his motivation at all.
Yeah, it really seemed like everybody in this movie approached it with a humility and respect for what they're doing.
And they just said,
I'll play my part, and nobody. The nice thing about the movie is like nobody looks bad. There's nobody playing like the buffoon in the movie.
No, the stumbling idiot.
But nobody's also coming out looking like a superhuman hero.
No,
it's just these
real
are all
people,
dudes,
or what feels like real people
going through a real thing,
trying to solve this in real time. Like, okay, we have to try and get out of here, but we're surrounded, and it's an incredible experience. This is one of those movies where when it was over, I was like, whew, like I kind of hunched down almost, because I didn't even realize how tense and straight I was sitting. Because the movie does a great job establishing the beginning. They overtake this house, and then for the next maybe 15 minutes, it's kind of just, I hate to use the word mundane when it comes to, we're not mundane, but it's just, okay, everything's clear.
No,
and then it cuts to the next room, and he's kind of, they're doing something, and then that, it's like kind of process and procedure, and then everything goes bad.
No, I mean you're right to use the word mundane. It is. Yeah. There's a stretch I was hesitant to use the word boring, but I'm like it is boring, like almost on purpose. Mm-hmm. So like I'm enthralled, but I also was like, I wonder how long this is gonna go, if it's really trying to show you like there's a lot of nothing that happens.
It's not just action, yeah.
Because it's a lot of the basic communication. Yep. They don't use any dialogue that's like movie dialogue. It's all very like, this is exactly how soldiers
This is
would
exactly
communicate.
what they would say.
They just the basic information. They wouldn't express what they're thinking, what they're feeling. They're just everything is very practical and tactical based. So there's a lot of the snipers just observing what's going on, and then you got to make.
Hey, there's
your
a
notes.
guy in a red shirt.
Yeah, like and so it was the calm before the storm that was meant to, I think, sort of lull you into like.
I think so.
It gets a little boring. Like
I think so.
That's almost the two modes. You're either bored
Or
you're
your life is in
terrified,
danger.
and it's and you'll go back to longing for the days of or for the hours of boredom.
Yeah.
By the time the terror gets there.
And I thought they timed that just right. They did. They let it breathe to the point where you are kind of like, okay, like how long are we going to do this? And there's even stuff like, they report in and then the person on the other end comes back like, hey, I couldn't hear what you said. Like even just like it's the mundane, and it's also like everything doesn't always go perfectly smooth. And then all of a sudden and even when the action does kick in, it's like it's not really cinematic. All of a sudden just a grenade kind of just comes into the room.
Yeah.
You never get the perspective of the other side of things in this movie.
I was saying that you really don't see very many enemy kills. You
No.
see a lot of them kind of firing back, but you don't see it because it just stays so much with their perspective.
So on their perspective,
that you don't get a lot of that typical Hollywood stuff.
No, this is not Saving Private Ryan.
No.
That's for sure. It's a different kind of war movie.
Yeah. I mean, there's certainly other war movies that, you might conjure up some memories of. Certainly, I thought a little bit of Black Hawk Down because it has that same, like, we're stranded, we're trying to get out of here, we're surrounded type feeling. And, of course, the desert setting, even though it's different countries, obviously.
Right.
Different continents, I believe. But it's still, it had a similar feel at moments of that. But you're right. Like, it's even Black Hawk Down still felt like they had to give more like Hollywoodizing and story to it and all of that. And this one, like I said, it just strips it all down. It is an hour and 35 minutes.
Yeah.
And like we've talked about, that first like 15 or whatever, where they're just kind of bored, and once the action picks up, it just keeps going. That I had no idea how long the movie was.
Right.
I never felt like, oh, this movie's too long, but it just like, when you realize, I guess it was like a little over an hour straight of stress.
Yeah.
That by the time you're done, you're like, you said, you kind of exhale, and then you go, oh my gosh, that was only an hour and a half, because it felt like we went through a whole thing.
And it doesn't do the thing where, like a lot of movies, even great movies, you can kind of tell when it's hitting that crescendo of like, okay, we're about to start the downturn of as far as wrapping this movie up. And this, they're not really building to like one thing. I mean, it gets to a point where they're trying to get 2 injured soldiers out, but you don't know, like, once they do, this movie's over. And that's what happens, and so you're right. It was, I don't know if disorienting then maybe is the right word, as just far as like, how long have I been here? How long have I been watching this movie? Like,
the only thing that really had me thinking about the time was knowing a little bit about the cast, knowing Charles Melton is one of the leads in it, and knowing he hadn't showed up for a long time. And I'm kind of like, that's interesting. Like, I wonder if his part's just really, and then he does show up kind of the last like third of the movie and does have a big prominent part of that last third. But then like once he was in it, started going, I was like, okay, now I know, like, we've checked all the boxes I know have to be checked.
That's fair
for this movie.
Yeah.
I do want to talk a little bit about the cast, not even necessarily specifics. I mean, we can, but just the fact that they used a lot of established actors who are recognizable, not necessarily like huge stars, but maybe like on their way up. I mean, you said Joseph Quinn. A lot of people will kind of recognize him, and he's becoming a big star.
He is.
Melton is. Will Poulter is. Coming more and more star. But they had considered possibly even just casting people from the military in these parts, and then they decided it was going to have to be a quick shoot, an intense shoot, and in order to make sure, like,
people
we get things done, we need actors who are going to be able to lock in and know what's required of them and do it. And like, I think it was a really good choice. These actually did a great job. They also did a great job praising some of the actors. I got this listening to the 2 writers and directors interviewed on The Big Picture, but I mean, they specifically pointed out Kit Connor, who played Tommy, who's like the young guy, the new guy in the troop.
Yeah.
and how good a job he did. They were talking about that. There's not dialogue that tells you how these characters are feeling.
You have to
so everything he
emote.
does just has to emote from his face.
Yep.
And they're like, the ability of all these actors, and they threw him out specifically just to emote from their face. I'm like, that's exactly right.
Yeah. This movie is funny. It's simultaneously a movie where you don't really need to spend a lot of time talking about the specific performances, but yet everyone is fantastic in it. But like I said, it's just not an acting showcase.
Yeah.
But everyone is great, I think.
Yes. I do think, I don't know. I don't want to say, I want to be so careful about how I say this. Not that it's easy to play these war movies.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely not what I mean to get at. I think it was probably easy for them all to commit because it seemed like they were all in this thing together.
Yeah.
They were really like, it was a short, intense shoot. And it does feel like every guy came in humble.
Yep.
Several of the guys were close enough. They all got like matching tattoos after the shoot. Like
Yeah.
it just seems like the type of shoot where everybody was on the same page what they're doing. And that's what I mean by it made it seem like it was easy to do. Not that it was an easy shoot.
No,
but,
I get what
but
you're saying
they were
exactly.
all swimming in the same direction.
Yep.
Just makes things work better.
Yeah. Alex Garland and the other man who directed this, whose
Ray
name
Mendoza.
Thank you. You definitely get the impression they must have done a great job of communicating, like, this is what we're trying to accomplish. This is what this movie is all about. Because like you said, you really get that sense that everyone was on the same page. And I would imagine when this script was finalized and presented to these actors, they had to have realized, like, this is not, I don't get a Tom Hanks in Saving Private Ryan speech or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, because it's so real and true to life, every character gets to be flawed.
Yeah.
You know, like Will Poulter's the guy kind of in charge early on, and there's a point where Charles Milton shows up. He just tells him, like,
it's like, I messed up, man.
He's like,
you gotta
take over. He basically just says, like, I'm shell shocked.
Yeah.
There's another word he uses.
And he
kind of
has his head.
Yeah, like I'm just not with it right now. I need you to step up. And you know, a lot of actors may look at that and go like, no, I've got to be the guy who steps up if I'm going to be in this part.
No, everyone's willingness. I mean, I know we're going to get to it, but Joseph Quinn's willingness to take on his part is unbelievable.
Yeah, because you think, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say you think. I thought just kind of the build up, just like having seen movies before, is like Joseph Quinn's playing kind of the cool guy.
Yeah.
And then the first like action that happens, he's half blown up and he's injured and just screaming. And they're like, oh, that's what Joseph Quinn's going to be in this movie. He doesn't get to be the cool guy. He's the injured, screaming in pain the whole time guy.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's quite a choice, and it's so effective. I mean, kudos. I do a lot of Joseph Quinn praising on here, and this movie just adds to my admiration for him as an actor.
Yeah. Cosmo Jarvis, which is such a name.
It's a name,
it's the
man.
actor's name. He plays the sniper guy who also is nearly killed.
He is
and you
awesome
think
in
is
this
dead.
movie.
Yeah, he was in the show Shogun last year,
Yeah.
which got a lot of praise,
Yeah.
and that was really how I got to know him.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like he's also kind of on the rise. Like he keeps popping up in things.
Yeah, and he just has such a presence in this movie.
Yeah.
I don't know how, like, he is kind of BA in a way, but not in the sense of like he's running around and killing people. Just his mannerisms, and he's kind of cool and calm, and he's the sniper, and then he gets hurt. And like, honestly, are we in the spoilers yet?
I guess so. Yeah.
We should just be in the spoilers. I thought he was dead.
Yeah.
Like they drag him back in, and I just thought they were doing that because they're just so.
You don't leave a body behind.
Yeah, you don't leave a body behind her. I just thought maybe like they're just so disoriented, they don't even know what they're doing. And all of a sudden he just kind of opens his eyes and you're like, oh, okay, he's alive. And then him and Joseph Quinn both have this really challenging acting to do where they are on the floor basically screaming in agony for 20 to 30 minutes, I would say.
Yeah.
And then they get carried off and then they're just kind of out of the movie. And it's really impressive. Not in a, like we said, not in a they're going to win Oscars impressive, but just their willingness to take on these parts.
Yeah. So DeFaro Wunate
Yes.
plays Ray, the
Yeah.
guy who co-wrote and co-directed the movie.
Yep.
And I'd say there was elements where I knew that he was one of the guys. I didn't know which one in the movie, where I started to pinpoint, like, that's got to be the guy who's part writer and director. And there's an element of like he's a little take chargey when the guy's hurt, trying to take care of him, and I'm like, okay. But then even him, there's the moments of like he's trying to do the tourniquet and his hand's so shaky he can't.
He can't
he's
do
like,
it.
We're gonna have to find another way.
I can't do this.
And then Will Poulter's character has to like step over and actually, and when he does it, it's like so easy, just showing like dude was just so shaken he couldn't. And so even he had to have those moments. And I did also read in the trivia that scene, or just he was doing it for a while in the movie. The scene of him tending to that guy and trying to take care of his wounds. He was on set. The guy that was the Joseph Quinn character was based on was on set, and it was like very emotional for them. And he had to like basically excuse himself from that scene. And Alex Garland had to take over that scene as sole director. And it's like that makes sense.
I can
like
imagine.
That's a very traumatic thing to have to sit there and like watch be re-represented.
I can imagine. Yeah.
I do want to point out like a couple cool things that I've just never seen in a war movie before. I forget, what do they call it when they call in the planes and like a show of force? Yeah. And a plane just like zooms through, and it's like all it does is just zoom through and like show you like it like the noise and the gust of wind that it blows through.
It happens like 3 times, I think, in the movie. It's incredible.
Yes, it is incredible. And the sound, like I said, the sound design, where I'm going like, lock it up. This movie's going to win the Oscar for best sound design. It made me really wish
I'd gone to see this in IMAX.
Yeah.
I just saw it in a regular theater.
Unfortunately, I don't even think it's playing in IMAX anywhere because IMAX is mostly still Minecraft and then some of the amateur. Whatever. Yeah. I don't go off on Minecraft, but yeah, it is the type of movie where see it in theaters, people. If you want to see this, like,
oh my gosh, if you can handle
the sound and the intensity,
it's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. And like I said, I'd never seen anything like the planes flying through just to, again, show of force, just like let people feel like, hey, we've got these machines that when they just fly by you, it's going to about knock you on your rear end and make you cover your ears.
Unbelievable. And that just that visual of all that dust and the way it's filmed, where it's like, it's either coming to or going away from the camera, and it's like the camera's just kind of stationary, like almost like in the middle of a road, and just like it's really impressive.
It is. This movie, I got it written down here. 1 second. This movie is estimated to have cost about $20 million. Looks
unbelievable.
Way better than that.
Which drives me crazy when we sit there and go, this was a $290 million movie and it looks like crap.
Exactly.
Which also shows, too, these actors must have taken pretty... I mean, I don't know that any of them are demanding like $15 million a movie, but like think of someone like Joseph Quinn, who was in like Gladiator 2 last year. Like, I bet you they did this for a pretty low salary.
Yeah. I would guess so. It also wouldn't surprise me if it was one of those movies where it was like all the actors just took a flat rate, like there's no scale and different things. I don't know these things.
I don't either. I'm just
speculating.
Strikes
me, as that type of movie. But yeah, the $20 million budget. I walked out and I was like, when I look it up, I could expect
$80 million,
a wide range with the amount of stuff going on, but also at the same time, it is a pretty small, intimate.
It is.
Story.
I mean, it really. It's taking place over the course of like 24 hours is kind of what you're, because they take the house at night.
Yeah.
And then the way I understood it is like everything that happened is the next day.
Yeah.
So and it's just the one setting more or less in this house.
Yeah. And like we said, it does a neat trick of making everything feel bigger than it is because it stays so much with their perspective. And like I said, doesn't show a lot of like the enemy.
Yeah.
I think it helps keep the scale feeling big because you feel the sense of like they're surrounded,
right, but really not a lot is necessarily happening.
Yeah. In fact, a lot of the just giving you the sense of any kind of scale is the like drone footage of
the overhead
layout,
stuff.
And here's where bodies are moving.
And I thought that was I was really digging that too, because like the thing we talk about where it's like movies don't talk down to us and everything, like they're showing you this drone footage. And I'm sure this was based on like real conversations. And they're like, okay, they don't map it all out for you. They're still talking like military talk.
Yeah, I mean, there's still
and I'm not meant to understand it all.
Still plenty of times where I'm like, I don't know what's being said.
I don't really know what's being said. And even like watching, I'm like, so are those bad guys? Like they don't take the time to dumb it down for me.
Yeah,
which just adds to the overall feel of authenticity to this movie.
Yes,
really smart move.
Yeah, exactly.
And then when they do. When they do have moments of action, like there's a explosion that injures Joseph Quinn and the other guy. Again, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but like it looks incredible. Like it's so well done. And then towards the end, they have the tank they're like blow the second story of this house. That all looks so incredible and realistic, because I guarantee you that's, they went out of their way to make it that way, but just it looks great. It sounds great.
Yeah. The last thing that I want to touch on is just Sean Fennessy asked Alex Garland and Ray Mendoza, he said, it's somebody once said, like, it's impossible to make an anti-war movie, and, just their thoughts on that, like, if they felt like they had any stance on war, and both of them were basically like, no, not really. We weren't trying to make any statement on war. Ray Mendoza especially was like, no, like, that wasn't my purpose at all. Alex Garland's a little more, kind of thoughtful, and like, of course I'm aware of it, but, no, I'm not really. And this is a movie that I think because of its realism and stuff, like, one, it makes you go like, thank goodness I've never been in a war. And two, it's definitely one of those war movies where, not that in any war movie you want to see good guys get hurt, but you're just like, please nobody else get hurt. I just don't want anybody to, so all the way up to the end where they're loading up in those tanks to get out, you're like, just nobody get hit. Just get out, please, without a hit.
Let these guys I kept thinking, like, let these guys who are hurt, like, just get them help.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And one thing I thought was so interesting about this movie, because same thing I was thinking is like, man, this is not really taking a side necessarily. This is just like here's what it's like. But I did think it was interesting at the end of the movie. It did take the time to show like the family that was actually living in that house. Like, it showed them come out, and they were like, hey, everything's okay. Like, come on out now. I thought that was really interesting. I don't have any deep commentary on it. I just thought it was an interesting choice.
Yeah.
To show this family from Iraq, right?
Yeah, it was Iraq.
Yeah, like, they come out and they kind of give them, like, I don't know, 20 seconds maybe, and it's just showing you as the audience, like, this family who they overtook their house, they're okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's also interesting. You could have a lot of discussion about like what's fair about what those troops did and what not. I mean,
those people were just sleeping,
but they're sleeping. They just had a house that was a location that was going to serve their mission, so they take it over. The house gets wrecked, obviously, but it gives you a moment of like when they know the bombs are coming, and the soldiers all go and basically like throw their bodies on top of the family to be like, if anybody's going to get hurt here, it's going to be us and not them. And that's a nice little thing to see, a little touch to see of like, yes, they're not being great to these people. Their house is going to be destroyed.
But
but they're not total monsters who are just going to not care for them.
Even when they wake them up in the middle of the night, so there's more than one shot of a soldier telling them like, we're not going to hurt you. So yeah, it's all just interesting, and it's interesting how it just kind of lets it unfold without trying to push any big agenda or anything.
Yeah. So this movie, I think I looked at it, is going to make like $3.5 million at the theaters this weekend. More.
It ended up with like, I think it ended up at 9 for the weekend.
Oh, really? Wow.
8 to 9. Yeah.
Well, that's much better than the 3.5 that I saw wherever I saw that.
I just checked before I walked over
here.
Okay.
That's good. I want this movie to be a success.
Oh, I did
Obviously, when we like a movie this much, we want it to be a success. I would just hate to think that, honestly, any of the movies that came out this weekend are going to struggle to be a success because of Minecraft. So I went and saw this movie Friday night, and there was pretty good sized crowd.
Yeah.
Lines to the door to get tickets. And, there's just a different energy with these crowds for the Minecraft movie. They're all
my gosh.
A little nutty.
That's a whole nother podcast.
And by the time I got in, I was walking by 2 security guys. One of them I've talked to a couple times, and I just looked at him and said, this is just Minecraft madness, isn't it? And they were like, oh man, you have no idea. And we kind of just chatted for a few minutes about the craziness going on with this Minecraft movie. Yeah. And it's a real bummer if, the hope is that, like, we always talk about, we want theaters to thrive, that just any good press for theaters is, any press for good theaters is good press. People coming to movies, and maybe while they're there, some people will check out Warfare and movies like that.
And sometimes I do think movies with some quality like this hopefully will have some kind of legs and some word of mouth where people, like people like you and I are going, this movie's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Please go see it. So it opened okay, like we'll see.
And it is a movie, like you said the disclaimer at the beginning, like you don't recommend it to everybody if you're not into bots. But the other thing is, like, I can also kind of recommend it to almost everybody because like I said, there's no politics in it that are going to offend anybody.
None.
It's just a very real movie. Like
The only thing I meant is
most people I know are more accepting of those things in a war movie than other movies. So like I could see this having a broader audience because.
Well, and I mean, I saw it. I'm 44. I took my son Mitt with me. It was the night before he turned 18, so he was 17, and he was like, "That's one of the most unbelievable movies I've seen." I mean, that was just unreal.
Yeah,
yeah.
If nothing else, this movie will have an impact on you.
It will.
You're not going to walk out of this movie and just forget it.
No, you're definitely not. And one more time, just kudos to all these, a lot of just actors I hope we're going to keep seeing a lot of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, shout out to my guy, Alex Garland, who keeps making movies that I enjoy.
Man, Alex Garland, you were becoming one of my guys.
Yeah. He's an interesting guy, just going back to the fact that, like, he's a British guy. Yeah. And I don't know why it surprises me, but like this just feels very American.
It feels very American.
It's an American military story, just being very true. And maybe that's part of what makes it work is his unbiased. Like he's
maybe you need that kind of outsider perspective.
He's obviously a guy who's worked in American film for a long time, but like you just kind of wonder, like, hey dude, why are you wanting to tell an American military movie? I don't know. But it's just interesting to me, and yes, I continue to like what he does.
Gosh. I mean, Civil War followed by this. Now I can't wait to. I always think like the 3 run. Like we talked about with Soderbergh, like Aaron Brockovich, Traffic, Ocean's 11. I can't wait to see what he does next and see if it is some kind of epic 3-movie run.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is he's planning on taking a step away from directing at least for a while.
Of course.
He was a writer first.
Oh no!
For years, and his next several things, he's just writing things for other people. He's doing another project with Danny Boyle.
Yeah.
But he said on that podcast, he said the only thing he's even thinking about maybe directing, he said it would be at least a year away from being possible. So he said we'll see. Then he said, but right now he's just kind of happy with the idea of just.
I mean, good for
writing.
him. Selfishly though, I wish it was like because I loved it. Like I said, just a year ago. I don't know if it's to the day. I think Civil War was like April 5th or 6th of last year. But I mean, a year roughly. It's like Civil War and warfare, unbelievable.
Yeah.
So
we will get another project of his in the writing category pretty soon because he
28 years
later.
Yeah.
And so we'll see that. Which, by the way, just an aside on that, the preview for that movie, whatever you want to call it, like the chanting gets like stuck in my head.
Oh my
I don't
gosh.
know. It's
and
got
it's just
a
numbers,
rhythm
right?
to it.
Yeah.
It's like numbers and like I think weird little like code expressions or something. But I don't even know what they're saying. But just the rhythm of it gets stuck in my head randomly, and I'm like, that's a very effective.
It's an awesome trailer.
Yeah, it's an awesome trailer. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, so. Get out and see Warfare.
Go see Warfare. I mean, just go in knowing you're going to have a very intense
Probably
experience.
not the movie to buy a bunch of popcorn and snacks for.
No, you want to probably sit and when people are injured, I wouldn't say it's gratuitous, but when you do get a glimpse of the injuries, it is graphic. It's real. Yeah, it's real. Poor Joseph Quinn's legs. Like it's a lot.
Yeah. So go check it out and. We will be returning
very shortly for us, a couple days for you guys to discuss the movie Drop. Yeah.
And we will see you guys then.
See you then.